Perfect music. Points if you recognize it. Ladies and gentlemen, where do I begin? So here's the TLDW. I'm moving. I am beginning the process of moving tomorrow. No, that's not necessarily a good thing. Who knows how it'll end up long term? But that's the TLDW. Now, rewind a second. So I live in an apartment. It's a fairly small apartment, but it's decent. I've had worse. I'm not really talking it up very well, am I? Yeah, I know it. I know it. I know it. I know it, Nemesis. I'll put that towards Empire of Sin. This is from Mega Man 04. Very good. It's the final dungeon. One of the final dungeon songs from Mega Man 04. So, yeah, so this is it's a better place than it could be. There are worse places. You know, I don't want to sound greedy or selfish or whatever. I am, however, 40 and can't really live in a college flat like I used to be able to. Yeah, for YouTube, it has been about 18 minutes of solid donations. So, about 3 months ago, actually, no, you know what? We're going to go ahead and be polemic today, okay? Because I don't give a crap today. Roughly a year and a half ago, a housing crisis started in the United States that spread to the entire planet. It was originally started by all information that I've been able to look into by a couple of companies who are part of what I loosely refer to as the construction market, deciding to charge more for their services. The construction market, it's an umbrella, right? These are the people who haul, gather, and set up the wood, the lumber, make sure they're properly treated, make sure they're actually put together, actually building the house, all that fun stuff, right? So they decided, kind of as like a unified group, because they tend to decide housing prices. For those of you not aware, that industry, they kind of decide housing prices. Whatever else you hear, no. That's the group that decides that. So they decided to go ahead and just give it a little bit of a bump. Cool. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into this. I'm giving you a super summary, obviously, because I want to get up to my part of this. But the problem here is that this then had a substantial knock-on effect on a lot of different industries. So, the United States federal government has a very hands-off policy when it comes to economics. What usually tends to happen is the Federal Reserve or the federal bank or whatever. There's several institutions. What they do is they tend to say, "Hey, we're gonna do this." Like, for example, they will start offering loans at X%. And that's how they implement policy. Now, whether this is good or bad is not something I'm willing to touch, because that's not the point of this topic. What is important is what they do is they poke something to poke something. Anybody who's played a video game of indirect control knows what I'm talking about, where you don't actually directly control Mega Man walking around, you control something else which controls Mega Man, to extend the analogy. So they changed a few interest rates around, changed a few loan rates around. Now, the intent behind this was to go ahead and make it easier to get a housing loan, specifically a real estate loan, and make it so that you can get a lower APR, which means more people would be inclined to get houses, which means that more people would be able to actually have housing and kind of push back against this increase in price. Problem. People weren't the ones who were doing that. So instead, a fairly large number of holding companies across the entire country within a startlingly short period of time started buying up huge quantities of real estate. And I keep saying real estate generically because obviously this affects housing, but it also affects apartment complexes, which, you know, and also affects places like just plots of land or places for development, stuff like that, right? So, yeah, exactly, Sir Mike. So they they started being like, oh, it's so much easier to buy up land right now. So companies started buying up land en masse, and it drove the prices high so fast, so rapidly, that, to use an exact example, not just an anecdotal example, but a specific example, my friend Gary, who got his house just before this hit, within 3 months, the price of his house went up $40,000. Just bad. It's actually even worse than most people realize, though. And the really funny part is that not a lot of people really even think about the other line of this. Because there's another line after this. You're probably wondering, hold on. Why aren't people in favor of lowering the prices of houses? Well, there's two fairly large groups of people who do not, two voting blocks who do not want real estate prices to go down. People who own houses already and holding companies who own property. And I don't want to say that like it's a they're greedy problem, because while there is some greed involved, obviously this is actually a fairly complex issue. If you ask someone who already has a house to keep paying on their mortgage when their house is actually worth this much, adjusting this is a thing. Possible, but there's not really a big legal mechanism in place to, for example, say, hey, housing prices have been pulled down. Can we renegotiate my mortgage to be what it's worth now instead of what it was when I bought it? And some people wouldn't even be in favor of that anyways because they want their overall value to go up. So you get the idea, right? It's a mess. It's a whole mess. So that led a huge knock-on effect on a huge number of places and a huge number of industries, and has been leading to more and more and more problems. In fact, homelessness has very much been on the rise in the United States. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to be homeless. I have a bolt hole. I talked about that. But the problem here, so let's get to relevance for me. The problem here is what this meant is that percentage-wise, by the way, we're still in the middle of this whole thing, just for perspective. So the problem here is there are still holding companies who are going out of their way to continue to buy real estate because it's still an investment that they want to get involved with. Housing prices have not gone down. There are occasional dips, but if you look at the overall trends, they are still going up. Housing prices, real estate prices, excuse me, let me be more clear. Real estate prices are still going up as of now. Now let's forgive me for the huge backstory, but I wanted to really cover this here. So, about 3 months, I guess it's actually been about 4 months now, towards the beginning of the year, a holding company bought the apartment complex that I live in. Now, most of you who are regulars on the show, you know this because I've already had issues with them 3 times. And that's important. It's kind of a build-up for where we're going with this. But yes, as someone just said in chat, I didn't catch, it was Trihexia. As Trihexia said, this is one of the really messed up problems was they came to me and said, hey, you didn't pay your rent this month. Yes, I freaking did. And I had to go down to the office several times and call in several times and be like, hey, you still say I owe this. Oh, yeah, I'll take care of it. No, you still say I owe this. Oh, don't worry, we'll take care of it. Okay. Now, that did eventually get resolved, only for the very next month for them to say that I owed money for the rent that was late, which it was not, as in the late fee. Which is not a small amount of money. Like, I'm not swimming in money, despite what you'd think from the beginning of this stream. Thank you, everyone, for your support. I really appreciate it. Yeah, the letter was I read it on camera. It was hilariously pathetic. I agree with that, Trihexia. So, that all sucked. The third incident was a maintenance issue I'm not going to bore you with. But the point is, well, okay, I might as well tell you. So the third, because this is actually relevant. The third issue was I needed to deal with something with regards to my water heater. Some of you may remember I mentioned this on camera. I'm pretty open about what happens in my life. I'm not, like, living under a rock or anything. I am pretty overt. Open. I overshare, right? I'm sorry, okay? Thank you, Ryman, very much, as always. I suppose you know the question? Well, I try to get my train of thought back going. So I'm like, hey, water. And they're like, And what ended up happening... Actually, no, that was before this warp core. Although that carpet is still very stained from that. See, Disco understands completely. The water heater was a whole issue. It had to be replaced. It was actually cracking and was in threat of exploding. So that had to be replaced. And they did that eventually. But the problem I ran into is hard to describe. So this is going to sound very racist. And it super isn't. Okay? So the process I usually use when I need to have maintenance is I put in like a really generic maintenance request for something simple. And then someone shows up. And then I say, okay, now that I'm talking to a real person, that I'm actually talking to rather than typing up a form or whatever, hey, here's the issue I'm having. And I can talk with them. It's different. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. It's different from when you're typing or when you're leaving a form or when you're leaving an email or when you're sending a letter to just chatting with somebody. You can have that back and forth figuring out what's wrong. Because I wasn't actually sure what the problem was. I wanted the maintenance guy to come up so I could figure out what the problem was. So I put in a generic request for the pan to be drained. The guy who came up did not speak any English at all. Now, I'm pretty good at communicating with people who do not speak English. I have a proven track record of that, but it's hard to convey the specifics of this maintenance issue with someone who does not speak my language. We did get there. We actually managed this, and he was a pretty chill guy. I got him some ice cream as a thank you for his efforts on the matter, because I could tell he was getting frustrated as I'm trying to explain what the hell has been going on. But I'm like, okay, right? We cool? And he's like, we cool. I'm like, okay. Gave him a bro fist, and he headed off. But the reason I'm bringing that up isn't just because that was an issue I had with the new holding company. Because it was. They're the ones who hired this person. But I learned something else today. Which just have that in the back of your mind, okay? Now pause. Nikki, am I saying that even close to right? Nikki do? It sounds cool. I love it. That's a great thing. Thank you. You've caught a very fascinating stream. Let me tell you what. This is a great time to show up. Yeah, it's a pattern. It's a pattern of either incompetence or deliberate malfeasance, right? 3 times in as many months. Not a good track record. Here's where things get bad. So let me tell you how the usual process of renewing a lease works here. Usually about 2 months prior to the lease being up, which would be 2 months ago tomorrow, I would get a letter saying, hey, you want to renew your lease? Give me a call. And I'd give her a call. It was this nice woman. I knew her personally. She called me a nickname because she could never pronounce my name. It's cool. And I'd be like, hey, what's up? And she's like, hey. And I'm like, yeah, hey, what's going on? Listen, I do want to renew. If that's cool with you, same things, no problems. Nothing's changed on my end. So if we're cool, just go ahead and set that up. And she's like, no problem. And usually a day or 2 later, I would have a manila envelope at my door with all the paperwork, usually actually specifically noted. Like you get those like, I don't know what they're called. They're stickers. And you put the stickers like here, right? And so there's like a sticker here, and then there's like a sticker. And it's bookmarks for the paperwork, right? And so here's the things she wants to pull your name, your thing to. Here's the people you want to put it towards. Blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. So that's what normally happens. Then I sign it. I slide tabs. Thank you. I sign it. I slide it under her thing. I read it because I'm not a moron. Done. 2 months ago, nothing happens. I let it go because I'm busy. A little over 1 month ago, I call. Hey. Oh, yeah, I'm going to send out the letters soon. The letters. Okay. That's confusing, but I let it go. Then I walk in. Hey. Yeah, I haven't had time to get to it. Okay. Now, I'm not going to give you every play-by-play. Some of you know some of the bits of this, but over the last month, as we march closer and closer to when my lease is up, which is tonight at midnight, I keep going in and calling and going in and essentially bugging this woman saying, hey, and keep getting stonewalled. Now here's where we pause for a moment to address something. Because I learned a factoid during the last couple of weeks. The woman who was in the office, I know I've already talked about this during last Saturday's stream, but the woman who's in the office, she is the only person who works for the whole complex. She's the only one. Used to have 3 people. I know all 3 of them. Now it's just her. We've already talked about why that's a terrible idea. So she is extraordinarily overworked, right? One of the times I went in, she actually had a meltdown on the spot and started yelling at me because I was, hey, this was just last week. Hey, my lease is up next week. Hey, and she was just like, and she hadn't even eaten her lunch. It was the whole thing. I was very understanding. I was kind. I was considerate because it's me, and I actually sympathize. I do believe that this woman is innocent, for lack of a better way to put it. But she's the only person managing the entire complex. And that brings us to this week. So Monday, for those of you not aware, was Memorial Day. Nobody's working. No problem. No issues. Tuesday comes around. No contact. I let Tuesday go because she told me last Friday, that she would send things out on Tuesday. Nothing happened on Tuesday. I'm going to actually pause here because I need to share another little story in the middle of all this nonsense. So, last Friday, sorry, I'm getting my timeline a little wrong. Forgive me. Last Friday, I've been checking the door very regularly because this has been very on my mind. This is why I haven't been streaming, by the way, because I wasn't sure of my living situation. I've been checking, so I check my door like every hour, like, anything. So I check my door and I'm like, whatever. And I go and I cook lunch. I haven't been grocery shopping because I wasn't sure of my living situation. So I'm just kind of making do with like rice and eggs right now. Not to complain. I'm explaining like the process here. So I'm just putting this together and get some rice. Oh, that's good. And I go, clean up the dishes, put that stuff away. And I go check the door. And, there's a letter there. There's a letter right here. And I open it up. Monthly billing for the month of June. And it tells me that my rent is due for next month. And there's a number. There's a letter at the bottom that says, your lease will expire soon. Please visit the office to arrange to renew your lease. Please remember, I don't have a lease for June. So, then, this is Wednesday, right? God, this has been going rapid fire, hasn't it? Yeah, it really is. So yesterday, nothing really happens. A few of my friends are literally keeping me sane because I am so stressed. I can't play. I can't play. I can't entertain to just enjoy myself because I'm too stressed, right? And I can't work. So I'm like frantic. Some people in the rewrite Discord know I was desperately trying to get ideas out for the rewrite because we're doing a whole thing. I'm not going to bore you right now. And otherwise, I'm just like so today shows up, and I'm like, come on. Finally, my sister calls and says, hey, you should go down and poker. I'm like, okay. So I go down to the office, and I'm like, hey. She's like, yeah. Doesn't recognize me, of course. And I'm not saying that as a negative thing. Trust me. She's got a lot on her mind right now. So I'm like, hey. And she's like, hey, yeah, what's going on? And I'm like, yeah, I was just, seeing what was going on because, my lease ends tonight. My lease runs out tonight. And so, you know me, or at least you kind of know me. I am a very... my charisma score is high, okay? And you know why it's so high? Because I don't have to fake it. I feel really bad for this woman. I have a lot of sympathy and empathy for this woman. I'm like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I'm chat with her about it, and we complain about this, and I mentioned something as an aside. I say, don't worry, I think all of us have gone through a day like that at one point in my life, you know what I mean? And she looks at me and she's like, what'd you say? I was like, nothing, sorry, I was just... And she looks at me for a second, she's like, hang on a sec. And then she goes, and she says, here, this is the letter that I was going to send out today. The letters that I was going to send out today. She hasn't sent them out, by the way, I checked. And she hands it to me personally. Editorialized. Dear Mr. Runner, occasionally, it is necessary for us to adjust your rent schedule in order to enable us to cover our costs. If you're willing to sign a new lease effective June 1st, the monthly rent for your apartment will be changed up by, I think that's like, hang on, I can do math in my head. What's 100 minus 22 plus 5? 83? By $83. Okay, that's actually not terrible. If you are not willing to sign a new lease, your rent would be changed to add another $200 on top of that per month, effective the first date. It will self-renew each month thereafter. Then, period, new sentence, water charges will be increased by $50 a month to what they from what they previously were. So that's actually a $250 increase in rent. The moment I read this is when today started to crystallize, and the last month started to crystallize, because this whole time I was trying to wonder what specifically they were going for. But when I read that they won't be kicking people out, won't be going into any of that, instead that they will specifically be automatically switching people over to monthly leases with a huge markup in the rent. That's deliberate. If you wish to renew your lease for 12 months, I can offer you one of several attractive incentives, but you must sign a new lease prior to June 1st to take advantage of this offer. Please stop by the office and see me so I can explain this opportunity to you in greater detail. Okay, hang on. I got one more thing here. Please remember to bring a Whoa, loud. Hang on, is this just the final boss playlist? I think it is. Actually, it is the final dungeon playlist. Please stop by the office. So that's already whatever. Also, please remember to bring a copy of your renter's insurance coverage. Now, really quick bit of reality for people who don't know how that works. So some places require renter's insurance and some places don't. This place does require renter's insurance, which is effectively another bit of rent on top of everything else. Thing is, getting a copy of renter's insurance is a thing. Like, it's a whole thing. Because they don't give you a copy of your renter's insurance. What happens is when you get renter's insurance, you put down, this is the person who I am renting from, and they automatically send it to them. They have a copy of my renter's insurance. That's how that works. We will continue regular programs of improvements and maintenance. I hope you find this place to be an increasingly pleasant place to live. So, I freak out a bit. A couple people can attest to this. I freak out a bit. Because there's a step in this story I haven't told y'all yet. Because last week, when this started really coming to a head, I actually started doing some research and looking at it. And you're probably wondering, hang on, what's the other reason you told me that whole story about the housing bubble we're going through right now? Well, the reason I told you about that whole housing bubble is because the whole country is screwed right now for renters' prices. Let me run you through the logic here, okay? Put yourself in my position for just a second. Now, I have a few things that I need to live. I need to have a place that's relatively safe. This is a lot of equipment and it's very expensive, right? So I need to be in a safe neighborhood. So I can't accept one of the slum areas. I hate to call them that. That's what they are. So I have to have a safe place to live. Problem number one. Problem number two, I need good internet. I literally need good internet to do my job. We saw what issues I had with Comcast, and Comcast is only acceptable internet. By the way, quick aside, keep this in mind. Any place I go that has either Comcast or AT&T, my bill goes up by quadruple. So, two requirements there. Technically, there's a third requirement. This is when we get a little bit greedy. I want to live near my family. I've said it many times, my family are my sanity anchors. I don't have the greatest mental health, and being able to see my adorable nieces and my incredible family every Sunday is kind of how I have survived for the last 4 years. So, what I did was I sat down, said, boom, these are the things I need. And then I started looking for places, obviously in the area, someplace that's in driving distance, so I could still have family and still find things. And what I find is that like if I was to get a place that is as good as this place, so a completely lateral move, no improvements whatsoever, my rent would go up by over $400 a month. The reason my rent is as low as it is because I've lived here for 4 years. Now, after really, sitting down, hammering down and being like, okay. Let me be willing to go even further. Let's knock one of those requirements off the list, family. Because in a pinch, I could get a place for like a year, and that year is gonna suck. But at least I could go someplace that's cheaper to live than here. And you already know where this is going. Doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Even if I am able to stop having access to my family every week, what I will gain in exchange for that is the money and hassle of moving for a place that will be worse in every way, that will cost the same amount. It's not really better anywhere. So, okay, that sucks. Again, you're probably wondering, how is that possible? The problem is, you have to remember, my rent has been doing, there's actual regulations on how much you can raise rent prices every lease, right? Note that I say every lease, not every year. This is one of the reasons some places will only do 6-month leases or 1-month leases. So they could only raise my rent so much. My rent is well under the line right now by, again, several $100s a month. So that's like, whew, okay. So I go back down into the office, and she actually gives me some paperwork, and I want to explain this a little bit. So you're probably wondering, hang on, why aren't you moving in with your sister? So first and most obviously, it's bad timing. Like, imagine for a moment, let me use a random example. Let me say Evo. Let's say I had to move in with Evo, wherever she lives, right? So if I was to need to move in with Evo now, that's going to suck. Because there's no there's no prep time. There's the transition time. There needs to be setup time. We need to make sure we have space. There's logistics involved with this kind of a process. And my sister's basement, which would be the option, isn't even finished yet. So it would be essentially living in a corner of an unfinished basement, which honestly nobody really wants. So that's the bolt hole, but that's the emergency option. So the general idea was, okay, fine, here's my thinking, and here's my actual thinking. I'm going to go ahead, knuckle down, live with this crap hole, which is getting worse by the month, literally. So I walk in, I say, hey. She's like, hey. And she's like, here's some paperwork to sign. And I read it, because I'm not an idiot, and I sign it. And I'm a little bit confused at some of the things I'm reading. But that's okay. Read, sign. Go ahead and turn in the paperwork. You're probably wondering why the stuff that I'm turning in seems so strange. Well, that's because it's an application. It's not a lease agreement that I'm signing. It's an application. So when I turn this stuff in, I'm actually screwing up the order of these events a little bit. I apologize. But the point is that this is all just an application to get a lease. And what I get out of this is an appointment for next Thursday at 10 a.m. to say hi to Zira, to apply for a lease. Think about what that means for a second. Because that means I am automatically going to be rolled over into the monthly lease for June. And since that's my lease at that point, they could then do the yearly lease at that new level, because that's the new floor. Hang on, I'm not done yet. Because this whole thing is just, while I'm down there in the office, 4 things actually happen in short order. So I didn't tell you this tidbit yet. I actually found this out earlier, but I'm kind of staggering this for the sake of the story. Their one maintenance guy, the nice gentleman who didn't speak English, quit. They only had one maintenance guy. There's no maintenance staff right now. When I said that there's one person working on this complex right now, I wasn't actually joking. There is one person managing this entire complex right now, and it's that poor woman in the office who needs to quit her damn job, if I'm being blunt. While I was in the office, the corporate woman was there. I've actually seen her a couple of times. Now, I am obviously very biased. However, I am also really good at reading people. This woman has the most insidious atmosphere to how she acts and how she behaves. It's a sort of faux politeness. Like, she's not actually polite because she doesn't give a damn. But it's the don't make a fuss vibe. You know what I mean? The kind of person who would say, so I know this is very inconvenient and I'm so sorry for you, but I am going to need you to go ahead and pack your bags because your department was downsized. I'm sorry. That kind of person. While she was there, another woman came in while I was in the office. This is a small office, by the way. That other woman who came in was having the same lease issue that I am. While me and that woman were in there, the office woman got a call from someone else having the lease issue right now. When I was walking back from the office, I came across a nice old lady who I recognized from a couple buildings down, who's having the same lease issue that I'm having right now. I want you to understand something. I want you to understand that because I am a kind, generous, nice person who reaches out to people personally, that I have been getting preferential treatment from the overworked office lady in all of this. I can't imagine what everyone else is going through. I have been the lucky one here. Process that. Now, to continue being privileged, because I am, I talk this all out with my sister. She gives a very strong argument that I need to bail. And she's right. But I'm like, okay, look. Because the problem is, we really don't have a lot of power here. It doesn't work that way. There's all sorts of legal crap when it comes to renters. And trust me, there's a lot scummier crap than this that goes on. This is kiddie pool. So this all mega sucks. And Sis is trying to convince me to effectively accept a $400 a month increase in my rent to move. Because that's what it boils down to. No matter where I pick, we both found 3 places in quick succession. Whatever pick, it's going to be a big price hike because that's life. That's where we're at right now because of everything I talked about at the beginning. She is not happy about any of this. I don't hear my sister get angry very often. She's partially angry at me because she sees me as being willing to... So the way she put it, I'll use her own words here. The way she put it is that from her perspective, I was resisting improving my life and accepting the crap that I was going through, just like I was back when I was literally dying. Now, it is a little bit different than that, and more complex than that, but I understand her perspective, and so we talk it out. But the point is, at the end of the conversation, what it boils down to is this turbo sucks. And there's no good answer. Except there actually is, kind of. Here's the thing. That basement can be finished. Let me explain what I mean by this. So you know me. Maybe you don't. I actually have a very tactical mind. And I kind of hate it because tactical minds tend to be very unethical or perhaps agnostic, right? Tactics has nothing to do with ethics, right? It's just, it's math. And I've already figured out the solution here. Because the solution is they go ahead and agree to dump a lot of money up front to get that basement finished so I can go there. And you're thinking, well, why is that the solution? Well, think about it for a second. First of all, I'll live there. I'll help take care of the kids. You know, I'll be able to help take care of the house. I will reduce their rent and bills. And I will also be able to help, you know, keep things clean and just take away some of the chore duty. My bills will go down, like even from this situation, because, you know, placeholder rent. I'll have a nice big space for my studio and for my sleeping arrangement, and they'll have their own little basement thing, and it'll be cool. It's literally win-win for everybody. But I can't suggest that because that would be rude as crap of me. I'm not going to presume that they're willing to go through that crap just for me. That's just how my brain works. I'm not going to presume that. So I don't even mention this. My brother-in-law, who is calming down my sister off camera here, while she's ranting about all of this, is like, hold up. Why don't we do everything that Laura just said? So that's the plan. Tomorrow, my sister's going to show up with her, you know, her vehicle, and we're going to start moving me. And that's the full story, I think. I think that's everything. Now, there is one really big asterisk here. Because the basement needs to be finished, this is going to be a little bit of a situation with regards to streaming specifically. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to set up my computer properly, and I know I won't have the proper internet set up because we have to actually upgrade the internet because we live in the freaking United States. For those of you who don't know what that means, first of all, good on you for having a place that actually has real internet. But what's going to happen here is they have regular internet, which means they have limited internet. So, for example, if I start going above their data cap, which I totally will, they're going to start feeing it. So what we need to do is we need to upgrade to a business plan, which is going to be $200 a month. We already know this. And then once we have a business plan, they'll flip a switch in the background, which means there's no data cap, which means I'll be able to stream regularly. So I don't know when I'm going to get back to streaming. That's the bottom line. I could stream a casual thing like this from my phone, because I've done that before. I did that while I was building this computer, if you remember. But that's reality. I don't know when I'm going to be back to actually doing this. Now, I can stream from my phone right now. I can literally demonstrate this. I'm not going to, but I could be like, boop. I could hit this button right here. I'm already signed in because I've got it set up properly. And I could hit that button, and in 3 button presses, I could be streaming from my phone. So, but no, they do not have, no, Micromono. It's literally just it's not even a switch. It's just the account switches from a personal account to a business account. It involves no changes. It's really frustrating. It's around Judo Joker. So it's funny you mentioned that, Blade Javel. So obviously I start, you know me, tactical brain. So I start thinking, all right, how many, what are the problems with suddenly moving? As an aside, I really wish that they had just told me this a month ago, because I could just taken a month to smoothly transition, but whatever. I mean, obviously they didn't want to do that, because if we did a nice smooth transition, they couldn't have tried to, hork me on the situation. Oh, by the way, I have looked into the legal ramifications of the situation. Here's the bottom line. Jesus Christ, random. That's the bottom line, right there. Random. I'll come back to that in just a second. Here's the bottom line legally. It is within the realm of possibility that we could either file a class action suit or I personally could sue them. I have all of the evidence on my side, and I have all kinds of things. However, that's not how the legal system really works. So, what would happen is I would have to hire a lawyer and then pay for a judge. That's a lot of money. This is one of the reasons why class action suits usually tend to be primarily about money, because among other things, they need to pay for the court procedures. Yeah, you have to pay for a judge's time is how it works out. You have to pay. I think technically what you're doing is you're paying for the courtroom, the space and the time. They block it out in terms of time. And so you have to pay, and then you have to pay, and then you have to pay. And yeah, these kind of suits also take years because most companies just try to entangle it and wait you out. And I guarantee you they do that here. There is actually a reasonable possibility that we would even win such a suit if we stuck with it. But think about how long that would take. And it might not even be a net positive in the end for the overall amount of money spent. Never mind the amount of time and stress. I already said we kind of lifted the polemic things here. One of the problems with corporate legality, because remember, there's actually 3 realms of legality here in the States. There's the civil courts, there's the corporate courts, and then there's criminal courts. One of the problems with the corporate courts, because that's where this would go, is it really boils down to people essentially just waiting out the clock if they can afford to. It's why individuals have such a hard time suing companies, because the company can just sit on it. The individual has to take time out of their day, time away from work. They have to look up stuff. They have to be prepped. They have to be ready. It's all on the person, right? You get it. You get it. So, if someone else decides to start a class action suit on this, I'll probably join in on that. But I will only be doing it literally as a principal thing, because I don't expect to get anything out of it. The other thing I was going to talk about, I can't remember. It was just before, somebody was like, why don't you sue? Because I was talking about the bottom line, legal ramifications, limited money, streaming. I was talking about streaming. Whatever. The bottom line, the real bottom line here, is that I don't know when I'm going to be able to stream again. Oh, right. Someone also said, Hey, is the bank situation resolved? No. Thanks for asking. Do you want to hear the resolution of the bank situation? Because it's hysterical. Let me say thank you first. That was Wilbo Baggins. Thank you, Wilbo Baggins, very, very much. I always appreciate if you want to put that towards some things, please let me know. The bank situation. Oh my god, the bank situation. You want the full story? How many here doesn't know the full story? Does anybody here want to hear the full story? Because this has been ongoing for months at this point. Actually, technically years. Um, this is a whole thing. Like, to tell you the full story, I literally have to go back to when I was 14. So fun fact, when I was telling Sis about this story, when I was giving her the update, she was like, hang on, I don't think I've heard the full story. Can you tell me the full story? I said, sure. Hang on. So it started when I was 14, and she actually literally physically did a spit take. I have almost never seen someone do a physical spit take. Like, ugh. Like she just sputtered. Like, what? But it's relevant. It is actually relevant, I swear to God. I didn't see Wilbo, but thank you, Wilbo, very, very much. And there was a donation from Random. Thank you, Random. Hang on, Random put it towards stabbing me in the face. No, he put it towards the basement. Thank you, Random. This song's appropriate, because what I've been feeling today is dread. You know why? Before I tell you the bank story, that starts when I was 14, which was the 90s, by the way. Before I tell you the bank story, the reason I'm feeling so much dread is because, and all the masks are off today, okay? So I'm just going to be very honest with you. I'm very smart. I kind of hate it, because you'd think like being smart is a superpower, but it doesn't work that way. Being smart means you can recognize things. Being smart means being able to look at something and go, oh. And you ever hear how often I've said the phrase, I hate being right? Being smart doesn't mean knowing how to fix it. Being smart knows what the problem is and that you can't fix it. Have fun. So that's why I've been feeling so much dread, because even ignoring all the crap, like before Sis and her husband decided to pull the trigger on this and say, we're going to make this happen, I realized and I saw not only that my life situation was going to get worse over the next year, but that this place is going to go straight down the crapper. Like, the rapid fire, the speed at which this place is being torpedoed is honestly impressive. Okay, so there's no maintenance staff. What if something happens right now, anywhere in this complex? What would you do? What do you think would happen? So, bank story. I swear me being 14 is relevant, because here's the deal. When I was 14, I opened up a bank account in Topeka, which is a city in Kansas. This is relevant, I swear. Because I was so young, my mother had to open it up with me, so her name is also on the account. That's also relevant. This is the first bank account I've ever had. It's actually with a credit union, okay? So we open up an account there. I can tell you the exact literal institution I walked into, because it was right across the street from where my high school was, okay? So that happens. Now, because that account exists and so banks have a bunch of check marks. See you around, Random. Because banks have a bunch of check marks, which basically boil down to your stability score. I don't know what they call it, but that's what it means. Having a long-term bank with a positive balance, that's a big stability score plus. So I've had that account since 1996, okay? That's relevant because, and I hate to keep bringing this up, but something around 2002, I was homeless for about 5 months. It was 2003, actually, excuse me, beginning of the year, because it was winter. So homelessness, 5 months, that sucks. I did start up in a bank up there. This was actually up in Pennsylvania, and that sucks. But then, you know, I come back home after a few events happen, and a friend of mine offers to give me a place to live so I can get back up on my feet. Problem, I don't have a bank account. Wait. So, having moved back to Kansas at this point in time, I go in and I'm say, hey, and lo and behold, because I can prove it's me because I have a driver's license, it's me. And so the same account is still valid. So I still have the account that I started when I was 14. It's still, I hadn't been touching it, obviously, because, you know, I moved out there. But, okay, cool. Okay, we've got an account. Everything's cool. I can start making money again, and I can start using it again. But honestly, I need to move away. So eventually I do end up moving away, and I start another account, and then I move away even further, and I start another account, and then I move away here, which is where I am now. And I've got my... I have a lot of bank accounts, okay? But I never closed that original account. Now, the logic chain here is ridiculous. So about 7 years ago, I was falsely accused of a horrific crime, and as a result, I had to go back to Kansas to defend myself. Learned a lot about legality and the criminal justice system and how messed up it is. But the point is, and this is the important part, I was in Kansas for this. So while I'm there, guess what account I start using again? Still the same account. Now, this was in oh god, what year was this? 2015, I want to say? 2015 or 2016, something like that. Which is important, I swear. So I attach my PayPal, which is where a majority of my income comes through, to that bank account. Cool, no problem. All right, everything's cool. So that happens, found innocent, go home, awesome. Go back to using my actual international, or excuse me, not international, intercountry, my national bank, which is the one I actually primarily used. Oh, they totally are Warp Core, but hang on. So this whole time I've had that other bank account there, and I just kind of left it be. I should probably mention at this point that this bank account, the original bank account, only has outlets in Kansas. In fact, they're pretty small, all things considered. Just keep that in mind. So, well, I could technically access that via online banking or whatever. It's whatever. But finally, at one point in time, about 2 years ago, a little under 2 years ago, I'm like, you know what? I should probably go ahead and log in on that and just kind of shut down the account, put it into stasis. So I go to do so, and I can't. That's strange. Okay. You know what? It's not a priority. And I, stupidly, leave it be. So then we fast forward a little bit. I make another attempt. This is actually much more recently. And I'm like, okay, go ahead and make the online thing. And it says something, it gives me a weird error message. And when I say weird error message, I mean like 911685-7. And I'm like, okay, that's strange. So I call in. The woman says, yeah, sure, no problem. Let's just prove that you're you. I'm like, yeah, no problem. So I give her all kinds of information proving that I'm me. Because, surprise, I am actually myself. But then the bank has a second layer of things that they use as security questions to be able to access the online account. Not the account, the online account. So the first thing she says is, what branch did you open up your account in? I'm like, no problem. And I tell her the exact branch. She says, no. Yeah, it's this branch. She's like, no, that's not even the right city. Yes, it is. I started getting angry at this point because she's flat out accusing me of lying. No, this is the city where this account was opened in. I could give you the exact address of the branch that is still there that my mother and I walked into to do this at. She says, no. Okay, what else can you do? Well, do you have your debit card? Of course I freaking don't. I haven't had a debit card with you guys for 3 years at this point. Well, I'm sorry, we can't do anything for you, sir. Click. I decide to let it go. Earlier this year, I'm not even 100% sure when, PayPal introduced a new feature without telling me. So what you can do is you can you can attach accounts to PayPal, and that's how you transfer money to PayPal to your bank, right? Duh, right? Most of you who donate to me probably know at least part of what this process is like. The new feature was that with no indication whatsoever, there was now a default bank account which was attached to your PayPal account. You already see where this is going. I'm not even 100% sure how many months of income went to the Topeka account, the Kansas account. Now, in the interest of total honesty, some of this is on me because, well, okay. So I should have noticed that my income was down. Instead, I just figured I was being an idiot, which is funny because I was. But my actual assumption was that, oh my God, am I spending too much money? Am I not being fiscally responsible? Normally, I'm really good with my money. I'm actually really good with budget. I'm really good at knowing what I'm spending and how I'm spending it. I'm not the kind of person to run up a debt or to go into the negatives or whatever. So I think, oh God, maybe I haven't been tracking it. Clearly, it's a problem with me. I've got to tighten the belt. And so I start spending a lot less money on myself. So surely that's the problem. No, there's a lot of money in that account right now. So obviously the problem's me. Now, the last time I told you all about this was when I discovered everything up to this date, up to this point. So I'm like, okay, what's the issue? Well, it's this. Okay, so I remove it from PayPal. No problem. PayPal can't do anything about it. That actually makes sense. So I'm like, all right. And some of you know this because I talked about how I would have to drive up there at the time. But no problem, because what I can do, because I'm here, oh, it would definitely be enough. Sis and I were already talking about making a road trip to fix this situation because it's not a small amount of money. It is most of my income for the year so far, right? So, hang on. So what ends up happening, this is the new update now. For those of you who have heard it, I apologize for all the repeat info. Here's the new update. So what ends up happening is I call in and I'm like, hey. And he's like, okay, the problem is we can't verify that you're you. I say, no problem. I'll give you, and I actually have the copy of it right there. I'll give you a non-notarized random piece letter that I'm going to mail to you from this address that says, hey, I'm me. Please change the phone number on the account to my phone number, right? Because it was a hilariously out-of-date phone number on the account. That means that now, once that's done, I could call in and say, hey, can you reset the login? And it'll send the code to here, and then I could give it, and we're cool. Double verification, done. Some of you who were present for that know that I was making a ton of fun of that because that's like the most insecure thing in the universe. A non-notarized random letter from someone saying, hey, please change the phone number on this account. Thanks. Whatever. Sure. Yeah, where's Jay Palmer? I know you're here. There you go. Ace Combat 4. You got it. Thank you for being a part of the show, Jay Palmer. So, okay, fine. Whatever. I send the letter in. I call in. Hey, phone number's changed. Perfect. Problem. That was just the security to access to access my bank. And if you were paying attention earlier, you remember the part where I said that there's a separate security requirement for accessing the online bank. And one of those things, and if you're paying attention, you heard this, was knowing my most recent transactions with the debit card that I haven't had at this point in 6 years. Now, the guy on the phone at this particular juncture was actually really helpful. I'll give him that. So, thanks, dude, on the phone. But he was stonewalled because there's security, and I'm like, can you send me a debit card? Sure. Okay, cool. Thank you. So he mails a debit card. Here, I actually now have a debit card for this account. So at worst case scenario, I have like a petty cash account now. I've already tested it. It works fine. I even remember my freaking PIN number because it's me. So, okay. I call in. I'm like, hey, okay, I got the card. I've got this. I got that. I got everything. Well, that's good because that's what I wrote down, Triaxia. I've got all the stuff. Okay, it's me. And they're like, cool. So, that's an online account issue. So I'm going to transfer to the online banking. She's going to transfer me to the IT thing. Thank you, Ginger Ninja. I saw the sub alert. You didn't put it towards anything, but I'm appreciative. Thank you. So, this is the important part. Some of you may have already picked up on this, that we're in Skull Castle now. Hang on, that's a little bit intense for this. That'll work. Dragon, hang on. Let me pause the story really quick. Dragon Age block, Spirit Farer, and Doom block. Thank you as always, Ginger Ninja. So, this whole time I've been dealing with general support. I am then transferred over to online support, the online banking support. Different division. You probably can already tell where this is going. The online support person knows exactly what happened, and it's something that I have posited, just based on evidence, this whole time. Sure enough, in 2018, they transferred to a brand new online system. And everything was grandfathered in to this system. Now that makes sense. Cool. We talk it out and we figure out the issues, and she gets this to she figures out what the problem is going to be immediately, because this is why the record of where the account was made is wrong. It's why the like all the information I was giving earlier was wrong, because their information isn't so much as wrong as it is default, and the person I was talking to originally didn't recognize that what the actual information there was NA, not applicable. Nobody had inputted the information yet. You're probably thinking, well, why? Because everything's done through online banking for them now. But here's the problem. And the online person is very honest with me. She says, here's the issue. Every single person who set up the online account, the new online account, has to come in physically to a branch to do so. And this happened back in 2018. So my account, and remember, they almost dominantly do everything online, is in non-created status because I never walked in and did this in person. And can't, functionally. Ma'am, can I please talk to your manager? She's like, no problem. This is the final wrinkle in this whole tale. So I go talk to the manager, and I'm like, and I lay out the whole thing. Yeah, you remember when I mentioned why my mother being on the account is such a problem? There's very little I could do to that account, especially long term, without also having the in-person consent of my mother, who lives in California, by the way, to do anything with it. So like that's I can't even close the account if I wanted to. So I talk with the manager. The manager's actually pretty helpful. She's pretty helpful. She's understanding. And I'm like, look. Look. And so I run through the whole story with her, and she's like, there's very little I can do here. I don't want to require you to make what was it, like an 8-hour trip one way? But that might be what's required. And I'm like, ma'am, can you do me a big favor? And she's like, what? Can you order me some checks? She immediately gives the party line, because some of you asked this last time. Why don't you just order checks? You can only order checks through online. That's the system. I say, ma'am, it is clearly me. I have proven this many times. I know you do temporary checks, not a full checkbook, but like one of the little sleeves. Can you please mail to the address on this account a temporary sleeve of checks? And it takes a bit, and I convince her, okay, she'll go ahead and do that. Problem, guess where those checks are coming, and guess where they haven't arrived yet? Yeah. Now, lots of you are saying put in mail forwarding. There's actually stuff I don't want to get into about why I would actually rather not put in mail forwarding if I can avoid it. Here's the summary. There are people I don't want to know I'm moving. There we go. That's the summary. And mail forwarding works very well. It does exactly what it's supposed to. And credit to the post office. I may have to bite that bullet and figure out an alternate solution. Because the alternative is all of that money is just going to be a petty cash fund henceforth. Or we're taking a very long trip. A very long, very irritating trip up to frickin' Kansas. It's like 8 hours, I guess, straight north. Just... And that is the banking story. There's actually a lot of good food in Kansas. Really good Mexican up there. Way back in the day, a lot of people from Mexico would migrate directly up the, I forget what it's called, trail, and would end in Kansas City, specifically Kansas City, because that was a really big train hub back in the day. So there's a lot of Mexican culture in that area, which means there's a lot of Mexican people there, and they make some freaking good food. So, you know. Yeah, exactly, Ventures. That's a thing. Can't I just keep the mail key? So it's not quite how that works. So in apartment complexes like this, what happens is the key for that doesn't really go through the office. What happens is the office informs the post office, and legally the post office manages that postal box. That's theirs, not the complexes. Does that make sense? So what happens is the USPS people will either ask for the key back, or what is much more likely is they will change the lock on it. So that's hands off. There's nothing I can do about that. So, TLDW. I am beginning the process of moving tomorrow. I'm not sure what's going on with the bank as far as accessibility. It could be worse in both situations. And I don't know when I'm going to be physically capable of streaming again. That's life. That's reality. Obviously, I should probably mention. Well, that's a good question, Blade Traval. That's a very good question. Seriously, Sierra Mike, I need to raise my frickin' luck stat. I know I haven't been streaming for about a month. For those of you who are not familiar with how the Short Dark works, I was supposed to go back to streaming, I'll give you the exact date, on the 16th. I was supposed to go back to streaming on the 16th. RFF1 was finished. It went live. I hope you please go watch it. It's really good. I'm so happy and proud of how it turned out. The RFF2 script was done, and we'd already begun work on RFF3. I had accomplished everything I wanted to. I was ready to go. But I wasn't ready to go back to streaming because of this situation, and because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm smart, and I knew this was going to be a thing. I gambled. Those of you in my Discord, you know, I was gambling that I would be able to stay here. I lost that gamble. First, thank you, Ladson, very much. I do always appreciate, thank you. And I will put that towards To the Moon and the Zelda block. Thank you. But yeah, so I didn't intend for this to be a long dark of a month, and now it's probably going to be about 2 months. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I can't even estimate, because the basement has to be finished So let me walk you through steps here. So tomorrow my sister's driving down, and we're gonna start grabbing some of my stuff and putting it. She has a vehicle that's larger than mine. I don't know what they're called. I can't think right now. And we're gonna start literally just getting stuff in there. No, not a U-Haul. We might get a U-Haul. We're gonna talk about it tomorrow. And not a step down from SUV. It's like the thing you have when you have a lot of kids, for obvious reasons. I don't know what this stupid thing is called. Hang on. Now I gotta look this up. Is it a hatchback? What's a hatchback? No, it's bigger than a hatchback. That was gonna bother me now. It probably will be Grey Wolf Dragon. I haven't updated the site for that yet, obviously. The site will not be updated while I'm moving as well, because I want to have access to my computer. Me too, Evo. It's a bus! Types of car. Now I'm curious. What is this stupid vehicle called? What is this? I guess it is apparently an SUV, legally speaking. Usually when I think of an SUV, I think of something bigger and dumber than that. Right? Like, you think of an SUV and it's a honker, and it's like, that's not what she has. But yeah, she apparently... So she has a SUV. Thank you, Memory, very much. I hope to get back to streaming soon, too. I've been missing streaming. Someone asked earlier if you all are a bit of a sanity anchor for me, and to be very blunt, yes. A lot of how I'm able to endure how much my life sucks is because I can get here and stream with y'all. That's not me being sappy or whatever. That's just the frickin' truth. So... yeah, I have more than one sanity anchor, and that is... It's why I called myself privileged earlier. What really pisses me off so much, more than anything else about all of this, is that I'm in a good situation. I think about that old lady who lives down in the building down there, or the woman who was in the room, or the gentleman who called in during the thing. What are they going to do about this situation? How are they dealing with all this crap? Right? Like, this is awful. I am privileged. I've got you guys supporting me, even though I'm basically saying, hey, I need to take 2 months off of work. And I've got someplace to go. It is not that hard to imagine that I don't have that. Because I've been there. This sucks. So Wing Commander block, FF7 R1, and FF7 R2. Thank you, Venters, very, very much. I will try to keep you guys up to date. Like I said, I can stream on my phone, but obviously I can't do any gaming with that. It'll just be like, hey, y'all, it's me. So I'll try to be more present, if for no other reason than that you know I'm here. If you are an Amazon sub, you have to manually renew. If you are otherwise, it will automatically renew, Nemesis. I'm just going to talk about Final Fantasy. 8 hours a day. Maybe we could discuss the rewrite. I pulled the trigger on a big change on the rewrite project recently. 2, actually. So we can talk about that, you know? We can talk about that on stream. I'll try to do something. I'll try to come up with something. We can have polemic streams. I'm in favor of housing no longer being a financial investment. There you go. There's my big polemic topic of the day. There you go. Boom. Little relevant. Little relevant to the immediacy, but, you know. Not a new opinion. It's just I'm even more researched in it now, and it's like, holy crap. I mean, I'm big, like, just holy crap, you know. Thank you, Dream Whisperer. It really shouldn't be polemic. There's a lot of things that I could say, this shouldn't be polemic, and it totally is. Yeah, I could go out for a walk, you know. I'll just have to avoid, like, showing addresses or whatever. So that's going to the StarCraft block, Lower Decks, and Patchwalker is actually funded, Dream Whisperer, if you want to put that towards something else, but either way, thank you very, very much, Jay Palmer. Wow! G. Palmer, I like you too, but thank you, Dream Whisperer, very, very much. Star Wars shouldn't be polemic. I agree with that. I agree with that. Dishonored 2 is also funded? Is it? Hang on. Do you know I have a website? Dishonored 2 is funded. I was right. Yeah, Patch Rocker got funded before it's finished. It's waiting until... that's like an 8-month thing. We're not going to do it until next year. LTTB Rando. That's not funded. Okay. We got it. We got it. Just think. The first game we're going to come back and play is going to be this piece of crap. We're going to be playing this awful garbage when I come back to streaming. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna take a sledgehammer to that game. Oh my god. Oh my god. I knew it, Huthor. What's funny is Sis and I have talked about this, and one of the requirements for me moving in is one of the nights a week is going to be on me for cooking, which I don't mind. I actually love cooking. And my niece has been talking about learning how to cook with me. So, you know, that's a thing. I don't know, maybe we could bring back, what's it called? She has a channel on my Discord for it and everything. What's it called? Cooking with Zan. Maybe we could bring back Cooking with Zan. I don't know, we'll figure it out. Call of Duty 5, Modern War, World at War. World of War? World at War. That's the one. Thank you, Cody. Very much. You want to hear something really funny? So, my eldest niece is currently away for, like, summer vacation, right? So I saw her last Sunday, as I saw, you know, as I see her every Sunday. And she's been very vocal about how much she wants me to move in with them for a while now. Because obviously she's been aware of what's going on. Of course she has. The whole family has. So, Sunday, I'm saying goodbye because I'm not going to see her for like a month. And she gets really quiet and she gets that, like, I'm trying to be responsible thing. I don't know how to explain it. Anybody who's taking care of kids, you know what I'm talking about. She's like, I just wanted you to know. I wonder if one of her parents put her up to this. I just wanted you to know that I hope you don't have to move in with us. And then she gives me a really big hug. Just, it's so cute. It's so cute. I hope you don't have to move in with us, Uncle Lore. Hug. And I'm just like, aww. Oh, I didn't cry, but maybe later, you know. The coffee. Oh, we need to make coffee biscuits. We need to do that. What do you make coffee biscuits out of? Jedi Fallen Order. Jedi Survivor. Wow, Kata Legion. Thank you. As always, Uthor. Yeah, it's Liquid Pride. Coffee and biscuits. Hang on. You lost me. What's the first ingredient? Do I have... I don't think I have the FF14 cookbook. I know a few people that do. I've got the WoW cookbook. I've also got the Pokemon cookbook. We need to poke at that sometime. Yeah, so I guess that's kind of everything. Please go watch the rewrites. The Diablo rewrite is already out. The Final Fantasy 1 rewrite is already out. They're both great. We're absolutely going to be doing more rewrites. So that's going to be awesome, hopefully. I'll be able to keep up to date on Discord and on YouTube comments on my phone. I can do both of those here. And I will also, like I said, I'll try to do semi-periodic streams just to be like, hey, I'm still here. let's chat for a bit about whatever, you know. Um, Several people have suggested taking the team and style of the rewrites and doing extant videos at them. A lot of people have expressed interest in that. I'm interested in that. You know, if anybody else is interested in that, this would be a good time to be like, hey, yo, what's up? I hate the idea. When I win the lottery tomorrow, this is going to be... Wouldn't that be absolutely hysterical? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But wouldn't that be hysterical? That I win the lottery now. Of all times. I need to make sure it goes... Well, no, I figured out how I distribute lottery winnings, because what you want is you want to put it in multiple bank accounts. Pro tip. I'll just buy the apartment complex back. You're like, here you go. And all the money goes into the crap. That would be the road trip time, Huthor. That would be the road trip time. Oh, man, that would be funny. That would be funny. Find that poor woman, that poor overworked woman in the office. Reduce the hours she has to work and give her a raise. Hire someone else. Jesus. Yeah, just imagine if I win the lottery now. Like, of all times. Yeah, give her some actual freaking support. Get her some other people in there. Yeah, you know what? That's a good point. I'm going to set that right now. I'm going to set just chatting. I'm just going to set the stream to that, and that'll stick for the future. So, sorry. Trying to do a wrap-up here, because I got to start packing. Watch the Diablo rewrite. It's really good. The artwork is fantastic. I think it turned out really well. Watch the Final Fantasy 1 rewrite, please. They're both really good stuff. A lot of people did a lot of good work on both of them. And I hear they're actually, like, barely not terribly written. And also, GDQ is going on right now. SGDQ. For anybody who wants some entertainment. I have obviously not been able to watch that. But I have seen a couple of runs. I've poked my head in. That's been some great stuff. And I will talk to you when I talk to you. And it won't be here. So get a good look. Because this is it. This is the end of it. This set is moving. See you guys.